Keanu Reeves was supposed to be the easy guest that night. The kind who says thank you, talks about the film, smiles politely, and leaves the studio without incident. Instead, that evening ended with security on stage, the audience silent, and Stephen Colbert sitting alone at his desk, visibly shaken. It began with warmth. It always does. Stephen Colbert welcomed Keanu with a smile and an open hand. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said to the crowd, "please welcome the man who redefined stoicism, Mr. Keanu Reeves." The applause was thunderous. Keanu stepped onto the stage with his usual quiet humility, bowing slightly to the audience before shaking Colbert's hand. He wore a simple black suit and no tie. His hair was longer than usual. His face looked tired, but peaceful. "Thanks for having me," Keanu said softly, as they both sat. Stephen wasted no time. "You've got a new film coming out," he said. "Another dark thriller. Another loner with a code. Is that your sweet spot now?" Keanu smiled faintly. "Maybe. Or maybe those are the stories people are still willing to make." Colbert chuckled. "You mean the studios?" "I mean the gatekeepers," Keanu replied. "The ones who decide which stories matter." There was a pause, a subtle shift in the air. Stephen flipped a card in his hand. "Well, let's talk about one story that did get made. Your latest film deals with grief, and you've been open about your own losses. Was that hard to channel, or is that something you carry with you every day?" Keanu nodded slowly. "Grief doesn't leave. It changes shape, but it doesn't leave." There was a moment of stillness. The audience didn't clap. They listened, but Colbert didn't linger. He pressed forward. "I have to ask," he said, "because the internet's obsessed with it. You gave an interview last year where you said, and I quote, 'We're all just trying to remember how to be human.' Beautiful sentiment. But some folks called it vague. A little performative." Keanu looked at him calmly. "Maybe being human is vague. Or maybe we're just uncomfortable when someone doesn't give a simple answer." Stephen raised an eyebrow. "But don't you think actors have a responsibility to be clearer when they speak publicly? To avoid mystifying things?" "No," Keanu said. "I think actors have a responsibility to be honest. Not clear. Honesty is sometimes unclear." That was the first time the audience went quiet in a way that wasn't admiration. It was uncertainty. Stephen leaned forward. "So, is that what you're doing tonight? Being honest?" Keanu blinked slowly. "Is that what you're doing?" The question hung in the air. Colbert let out a short laugh. "All right, let's do honesty. You've become something of a mythical figure. The internet loves you. There's even this narrative that you're the last good man in Hollywood. Is that a lot to live up to?" "I don't try to live up to it," Keanu said. "I try not to need it." "But you've benefited from it," Stephen pressed. "The image, the idea of you. Doesn't that make you just as complicit in the myth-making?" "I don't sell the myth," Keanu replied. "Others do. I don't correct it, either. Because I think people are hungry for goodness, even if they have to invent it." There was a subtle tightening in Colbert's posture. "So you're okay with being a symbol?" he asked. "Even if the symbol isn't entirely true?" "I'm not okay with it," Keanu said. "I just don't believe it's my job to control how people cope with the absence of kindness." That line made part of the audience applaud. The other half stayed quiet. Stephen looked down at his cards again, but he didn't read from them. "You've worked in this industry for decades," he said, "and you've never had a scandal. Never lashed out. Never made a scene. I'm curious, where does the anger go?" Keanu sat still. Too still. "Who says it goes anywhere?" he asked. Colbert smiled tightly. "So it stays." "I didn't say that either." "Then what are you saying?" Keanu looked at him. "Maybe the problem is needing every answer to fit a segment." That line didn't sit well. Stephen shifted in his chair. "Keanu, with respect, this is a talk show. People come here to hear you speak. To explain things. That's the format." "No," Keanu said gently. "This is your format. That doesn't make it the truth." Now the tension was clear. Not loud, not dramatic, but present. Like something valuable had been quietly stepped on. Colbert exhaled. "You know, it's funny," he said. "People always say how gracious you are. How kind. But right now, you're not being very generous with your words." "I'm not here to perform generosity," Keanu replied. "I'm here to speak plainly. And plainly, I think our culture has mistaken performance for depth. That's dangerous." Stephen's voice tightened. You don't think conversation is performance? I think conversation is risk, Keanu said. And too often, shows like this remove all the risk. They keep the appearance of truth, but none of the vulnerability. The audience didn't know whether to clap or not. The silence said enough. Colbert pushed forward. So what would you have us do, he asked. Throw out the cards? Just sit in silence and let people feel things. Keanu didn't blink. Maybe, he said. Maybe silence is more honest than pretending to care. That landed hard. Stephen sat back. The room felt colder now. Not hostile, just changed. Stephen Colbert let the silence linger, but only for a few seconds. Then he leaned forward, this time slower, steadier, as if trying to regain his footing. You know, Colbert said, for someone known for kindness, you've brought a lot of confrontation to the table tonight. Keanu's expression didn't change. Maybe that's because you mistook quiet for agreement, Keanu said. But silence isn't always consent. Sometimes it's exhaustion. That made the audience stir. Colbert held up a hand. I'm not trying to pick a fight here, but I think it's fair to ask why someone who spent a lifetime avoiding headlines suddenly wants to start a conversation about silence and risk on a late-night show. Keanu looked at him evenly. I didn't start this conversation. You did. You asked where my anger goes. And now I regret it, Colbert said, forcing a smile. You don't regret the question, Keanu said. You regret that it didn't come with applause. The line hit hard. Colbert's grin vanished. For a moment, he said nothing. Then he picked up his note cards again, more out of habit than need. You've talked about grief before, he said, eyes on the card. You've said it never goes away, it just finds new rooms to live in. That's a beautiful sentiment. But don't you think some people would rather you just entertain them? I think people want something real, Keanu said, even when they say they don't. But isn't it arrogant to decide what people need from you? Colbert asked. Isn't it possible they just want a movie star, not a mirror? Keanu answered without flinching. I don't think I'm a mirror, he said. I think I'm a man who's been asked to smile through other people's pain, and sometimes I choose not to. The studio was very quiet now. The kind of quiet that feels like something has just been said that can't be taken back. Colbert sat still, his eyes sharper now. Okay, he said. Let's stop dancing around it. What's really going on tonight? Keanu paused. I'm tired, he said softly. Not of you. Not of this. Just tired of seeing performance replace sincerity. Tired of pretending that everything said on television matters more than what's said in silence. So you're tired of being here? Colbert asked. I'm tired of being treated like a product, Keanu said. Even in places that pretend they're offering conversation. Colbert's voice tightened. You know, there are people who work very hard to put this show together. Writers, staff, audience members who flew here just to see you. I'm aware, Keanu said. That's why I'm still sitting here. But you're not really here, Colbert said. Not in the way we expect. You're holding something back. Or maybe pushing something forward. Either way, this isn't the Keanu people came to see. Then maybe people should ask why they only want one version, Keanu said. Why we ask actors to disappear inside roles, but panic when they show up as themselves. The audience was still. No one clapped. But no one looked away. Colbert's jaw tensed. This isn't the interview I expected. Keanu didn't blink. It's not the one I expected either. That line changed something. Colbert leaned forward again, this time with less poise. Then maybe we should end it here, he said. Keanu stood up slowly. That might be best, he said. But not because I'm angry. Because this moment isn't about anger. It's about honesty. And I don't think this show is built for it. He removed his microphone carefully and handed it to the crew. Colbert remained seated. You don't get to make that decision, he said. This is my stage. Keanu looked down at him. Then maybe you should think about what kind of stage it's become. The studio lights still burned bright. But the warmth in the room was gone. Colbert said nothing as Keanu turned and walked calmly toward the wings. No applause. No music. Just the sound of a man choosing to leave before his silence could be rewritten for him. Backstage, producers were frozen in place. No one moved to stop Keanu, but no one looked him in the eye either. It was as if something sacred had been disturbed. Something unspoken, but universally understood. Colbert remained on stage, staring at the empty chair like it had betrayed him. The band didn't play. The cameras kept rolling, but no one spoke into them. Finally, Colbert straightened in his seat and looked into the lens. "Well," he said, "that was unexpected." The audience didn't laugh. Some shifted. Others looked down. There was no exit line to clean the air. No clever reset. Just a weight that had settled over the studio like dust. Colbert cleared his throat. "I think we'll take a break," he said. The screen faded to black. But the story didn't end there. Because within hours, clips of the confrontation were already circulating. First in fragments, then in full. No headlines. Just the footage. People watched and rewatched. They didn't argue about sides. They didn't split into teams. They just sat with what they had seen. A man walk away not in anger, but in refusal. A refusal to be cornered into comfort. A refusal to apologize for choosing sincerity over show. And something strange happened. People didn't mock Keanu. They didn't debate his tone or his timing. Instead, they listened. Quietly. Carefully. Because in a world that rewards noise, the sound of someone leaving a conversation with dignity feels louder than any outburst ever could. In the days that followed, Colbert made no public statement. He returned to his show, made a few jokes, and kept moving. But something in the rhythm had changed. His monologues landed softer. His guests smiled tighter. And the stage felt just a little smaller. As for Keanu, he went back to what he always did. Working. Living quietly. Saying less. But when asked about the interview, months later, he offered only one sentence. "Sometimes the loudest thing you can do is walk away." And for once, the world agreed. Because everyone had seen what happened. And no one forgot how it made them feel.